Julie, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming in studio.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I appreciate you not braving the rain, but slogging out into the rain. It's been kind of gross for like 3 days.
Yeah, April showers bring May flowers, and yet every April I'm like, when's it going to stop? So, yeah, it's a little bit, it's depressing out. And it's hard when you have little kids because you can't, I usually run them on the playground after school. So it's kind of miserable to stay inside.
I tell you what, it's hard when you have 3 dogs too, because they all want to go out as much.
I bet.
Yeah. So you sent me an email earlier today showing me your latest column, and I have to say I went a gigantic whoo. You may have heard it in Northern Virginia because I have bought into the culture of alarmism over the past couple of days, Julie. I saw the headlines, right? Drinking diet soda triples your risk of dementia and stroke.
Right.
And I do drink diet soda, so you were telling us not to freak out about this.
Yeah. So I looked at the study, which is something that most people don't do, and who has time for that, right? But I actually get paid to do that. So I looked at the study, and the first thing people need to understand is the study was an observational study, which in science speak and as far as scientific studies go, observational studies are the worst. And there's a couple reasons for that. But I should say before I go into observational studies, I think in general, nutrition studies, the study of what humans eat and the effect on their bodies is a very flawed body of science. And the reason is because, so if you want to find out how something interacts with an organism, with a human a living thing. Usually scientists use lab rats, right? And you can put a lab rat in a cage and you close the cage and you can control what they come into contact with. You can't do that with humans. So with observational studies, you rely on information that they willingly give you. They volunteer this information. So this study, it was around 2,800 people. That's not a bad number. Over about a decade, that's a good amount of time. The problem is that they relied on voluntary information. Now, as I wrote in my piece, if you asked me what I had on Saturday night, I probably wouldn't admit I ate an entire sleeve of Thin Mints and a cheese stick and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and a half a bottle of Chardonnay. I would probably say I had a couple Thin Mints and then I had some sort of healthy salad and I had sparkling water, okay? And, I also wrote this. I might actually think I'm telling the truth because memory's a funny thing and you want to sound like you're a better person. And so people lie. It's the bottom line. People lie on these things. So it's really hard to actually get an accurate data from people who are volunteering that information. Secondly, when you look at the study, the researchers found a correlation, not causation. And I know I've said this a lot, but this is really important. So they look at these 2,800 people and they say, okay, so the people who after 10 years developed some sort of cardiovascular disease or dementia or whatever, they were the ones that recorded drinking more soda. But we have to think, what other things do people who drink diet soda usually have in common? People who drink diet soda usually are either overweight or obese, or for me, you're dieting all the time. People are they are trading in, a diet soda so that they can have more calories in food. So a lot of people are battling a weight issue. They might have a more sedentary life, and so they drink diet soda so that they're not getting those calories. And so when you think about that, you're thinking, wow, goodness, what other reasons for cardiovascular? Could it be obesity? I mean, that's also a known cause. So again, they could have also put something on the end of the questionnaire that said, what color sweater are you wearing today? And they could have gone through and said, goodness gracious, the people who wore purple sweaters had a higher incidence of cardiovascular disease. So my point is you can find lots of correlations here. They didn't find causation. In other words, it's not like they did a bunch, they did a study and the person who drank a tab immediately dropped dead and it was because of the tab. So it's really important to put those things in perspective. I think nutrition studies can be useful and instructive, but they are limited. And so if you're going to go out and throw out all your Coke and Diet Coke and all Diet Pepsi, just calm down and take a deep breath. You're fine. You likely will not drop dead.
Maybe go for a walk.
Maybe go for a walk. I just want to say one other thing that I think that we at IWF we always try to point out what are the consequences of these kinds of studies and what are the problems associated with these kinds of studies. And one of the problems is that diet sodas, sugar-free sodas, are an incredible dieting tool. They help people who might want to treat. You can have a diet soda and you feel like you're having a sugar fix a little bit. And so I think what's upsetting to me is that I think, people who really struggle with dieting and struggle with limiting their calories, this is a tool that's useful for them. And now they're going to be afraid. And so, they might not be able to sort of hold off on eating that sugary item because they don't have this diet soda available to them because they're afraid of it. So that's a problem. That's a real problem with these stories, with stories like this.
That's true. To the best of our knowledge, we haven't seen any studies on like Little Debbie in dementia, right? Little Debbie intake.
Right.
The more Star Crunches, right? I mean, there's just a lot out there. All right, so another story here, Julie. I don't know if you saw the story from Prattville, Alabama, where a 16-year-old has been expelled for a year for having a water gun on campus. Did you see this?
No, I did not see this. Tell me.
Okay, prepare to be enraged, all right? Not just like a little upset. Prepare to be enraged.
I got it.
Sarah Alina Nichols, who goes by Lainey, was expelled for a year from all schools in the county, banned from school property and any extracurricular activities for a year. Her mom says, yeah, she had the water gun on campus, but come on, this is kind of crazy. She said she's 16, doesn't know what it means when you hear gun on campus. Mom said, we admit what she did was wrong. I was hoping this could be a teachable moment for her. We're not saying she should not have been punished, but she took a 10-day suspension, and then the board expelled her. We feel the expulsion is excessive. The mom says that a male classmate handed the water gun to her daughter as a joke. She ended up putting it in her car, just like dropping it on the car seat. And then a student called in and said, there's a gun in the car. Police come in, and that's when Lainey is taken to the office. She said, she admitted she had the gun, told him it was a water gun, told him it was in her car. She and the other boy were silly, made a mistake, says mom, but the punishment she received was completely out of line for what happened. A year's expulsion for this, Julie.
Unbelievable.
I mean, what the hell? Have we lost our minds
We
here?
have lost our minds. I mean, my God. It's interesting. I had something happen on the playground the other day. Now, I live in Alexandria, Virginia, not exactly the most conservative community in the country. And my son was playing. He's 6 years old, and he likes to play with sticks, and he acts like the sticks are guns. And I've never corrected him because I don't think that's unusual. I think it's completely fine. I had a little girl come up to me. She must have been 6 years old, 5, maybe 7, and she said, "Your son said a bad word." And I said, "What? What?" I said, "Well, what did he say to you?" And she said, "Well, he said a really bad word, a word you're not supposed to say." I'm thinking the F word or the SH word or something like that. What could he possibly have said? And I said, "Can you tell me what the word starts with?" She says, "G." I said, "What's the word?" And she said, "Gun." And I said, "That's not a bad word." And she goes, she was completely shocked. That's a bad word. I go, no, that's an item. That's an object. It's not a bad word. And I had to hold myself back from explaining to her what really were bad words because I was so angry at the moment. And she was with a nanny. She wasn't with her parent. But if her parent had been there, I would have had a very interesting conversation, no doubt, with this mom or dad who had taught their daughter that the word gun is a bad word. I
would have been picking the nanny's brain. I would have been.
I would have been. Should have.
Where did this come from? I mean, holy cow.
Wait, let me record this for my show. It was. I probably should have. Gosh, I would
never go to the park without a GoPro. Always have the GoPro on you from now on.
And what is wrong with me? This would have made this segment much more interesting if I had had that story to tell. But anyway, but it really is shocking, and I think that sometimes people forget how much this has seeped into our culture. That people just the overreaction to the very word gun is really strange. But it is a cultural phenomenon out there. And this young girl who has received a year, I hope I didn't catch that. Are they going to appeal this?
They're suing.
Good.
Yeah, they're suing because apparently the other thing is the boy who gave her the toy gun, he got an in-school suspension. That was it. Because I guess he didn't get caught with the.
He shouldn't have even gotten.
So
he
that was an in-school suspension. I know, but then the disparity of punishment. Frankly, again, in my world, this would have been a. Bring them into the office. Hey, you understand why, you shouldn't leave a water gun that resembles a real gun on the front seat of your car when you park it in the school parking lot. You do understand this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, look, we've got to teach you a lesson, so you need to stay after school and help clean up the quad or whatever.
Yeah.
A year's expulsion, to me, the all of a sudden now we're teaching the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're teaching the lessons that, sometimes big institutions are fallible. Sometimes they make heinous mistakes, and you're going to be punished. I guess maybe the one life lesson is life is unfair here, Julie. But
you've got.
I don't know. It seems like this
is
is even an excessive lesson to teach that way.
But there is also, I think it's important to point out that just the inconsistencies. You've got violence on Berkeley against speakers and in Claremont McKenna and Middleburg and all of these colleges where students are shutting down free thought and free speech and then resorting to violence. And these campuses do nothing. I mean, what happened to Charles Murray when he and the professor who was accompanying him, they were assaulted, and that college has done nothing to try to find out who actually assaulted the professor, who sort of organized these violent protests. I mean, nothing's been done. Berkeley does nothing. So I think one thing that's frustrating, is the inconsistency in this. That a girl brings a water gun, she gets a year's expulsion. There is an assault on a faculty member at a college, nothing. Right. So that's another part of it. That's really, I think, disturbing to a lot of people who watch this stuff, and I sort of scratch their heads at the culture today.
Yeah, Chris Hayes of MSNBC would tell you, Julie, that you're just reveling in the persecution and grievance culture. That's why you brought up what's going on at Berkeley. Yeah, I know that's their answer.
Yeah.
I think you point out the inherent problems here, where again we're over criminalizing. We're criminalizing a water gun, right? We're saying you brought that water gun on school property, you're out for a year. You're assaulting somebody because you don't like their ideas, or you're even preventing. Let's say you're not assaulting anybody. Let's say that you are just trying to block a speech from taking place because you don't want people to hear the words coming out of someone else's mouth. And that goes not only unpunished, but it goes unchallenged. As a matter of fact, it now goes and gets praise in the New York Times.
That's right.
This attitude, right? Here's what the snowflakes get right. No, the snowflakes have it entirely wrong. And again, you want to talk about what's messed up on our school campuses, whether it's higher education or high school or elementary school. I think you just demonstrated it perfectly. These are two great examples of how skewed the thinking is in a place that's supposed to teach us how to think. That's the scary thing, Julie.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by the New York Times, but actually at Middleburg, where Charles Murray spoke and a professor who was accompanying him was assaulted, there is an official at the college who just, I think 2 days ago, apologized to the protesters for inviting Charles Murray, for creating an atmosphere where they would be upset. So that's even more. I mean, I'm not surprised by the New York Times. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they're so intellectually sort of corrupt and don't understand the implications of this. But not surprised. But when you have, I mean, I don't really understand how, again, it's offensive enough that Charles Murray, an incredible scholar, was not allowed to speak. But again, you would think that an official of the college, when it's gotten to the point where a faculty member is assaulted while trying to get Charles Murray to safety, you would think there'd be some sort of school policy on not apologizing to the people who assaulted the press. Anyway, again, it's like
Yeah.
I feel like, I really do, and sometimes feel like I'm 80 years old, going, I don't understand the world anymore, because I don't understand the world anymore.
We could talk about this all afternoon long. I appreciate it. You're welcome to stay on my lawn as long as you want. I'm not going to yell, "Get off my lawn" at you. And yeah, this was Bert Johnson, Middlebury's the head of the school's political science department.
I kept saying Middlebury. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. So yeah.
It's
So
all
what
right.
was his name again?
We knew we all knew Bert Johnson. Chair of the school's political science department, who said the short amount of time between when the event became public and when it occurred, gave all of us scant opportunity to listen to and understand alternative points of view. Most importantly, again, couldn't hear the main point of view because Charles Murray wasn't allowed to speak. But most importantly, Johnson wrote, and to my deep regret, it contributed to a feeling of voicelessness that many already experience on this campus, and it contributed to the very real pain that many people, particularly people of color, have felt as a result of this event. So there you go. Julie, listen, unfortunately, we got to leave it there, but I do appreciate you joining us in studio. It is always good to see you, and we'll do this again very soon.
Great. Thanks for having me on.